Thank you so much, Michelle. Hi, everybody. Let's give folks a little bit of time to join. We're going to hold off on starting for a couple of minutes. I know that sometimes prior sessions run a little long, so we'll just wait here. And I'm keeping letting folks in as we grow our group. Hope everybody's been having a good week, an enjoyable exchange to the extent you've been able to participate in it.
And just a heads up, Dan or Stephanie, I think you have your email coming through. We can hear the notification sound.
I think that's me.
I think that is Stephanie. I have I have no notifications of anything on anything ever. It's very difficult to contact me. That's deliberate. No. All right, we've got a few more folks coming in. We'll just sit tight for a sec.
I just want to say hi to Hannah, Isabel, and Anu. They're all coming to Ashoka this summer, so it's great that you guys can be here and contribute and talk about the syllabus.
Yes, we've heard a lot about you. Yeah, we've been told that you are our guaranteed audience, which is a wonderful thing. No, but in all seriousness, very nice to have you here. Very nice to meet you. We haven't heard really great things about you from Annette and Anna. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Let me share my screen. We get to do that fun thing, right? Alrighty, you can all see that okay? Good, wonderful, excellent. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this session of the 2020 Exchange. Our session is Let's Design a Changemaking for Lawyers syllabus student feedback workshop. So I'm particularly happy to see folks who are closer to the student experience than I am. My name is Dan Jackson. I direct the New Law Lab at Northeastern University School of Law. I'm one of the folks who will be running this workshop with you all. Let me just walk really quickly through the agenda that we are going to cover. We're going to start with introductions for all the facilitators. There's 5 of us out here who are going to be working with you during this hour and 15 minutes. We're going to provide you with a quick overview of change making and traditional legal education, as well as the vision for what could be with a more dedicated effort to embed change making into the law school curriculum. We're going to talk a little bit about this syllabus project, where it's been, where it's going. A little bit about a legal intern program some of you may be aware of at Ashoka. And then we're going to do we were going to do breakout rooms. I don't think we have enough people for breakout rooms, so we're just going to run one big brainstorming, 3 rounds of brainstorming. The first round, we're going to collectively envision a future world. The second round, we are going to identify potential change-making opportunities in that future world. And then the third round is when we get to the actual syllabus, and we're going to choose a section of the syllabus, or we'll be able to jump all over the syllabus, actually, since we're doing one large brainstorming session where we're going to spend about 20 minutes critiquing the syllabus in its current form before we report out, wrap up, and talk about next steps. So a little bit of facilitator introductions. I'll start, and then I'm going to hand it off to somebody who's going to hand it off to another facilitator. As I mentioned, my name is Dan Jackson. I direct the New Law Lab at Northeastern University School of Law. We are an interdisciplinary innovation laboratory that's working at the margins, the intersection of creative arts and law to come up with new strategies of legal empowerment. We've been around since 2013, and we've been a Changemaker campus, Northeastern University, since I think 2015. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm going to pass it off to Bridget.
Thanks, Dan. Happy to be here. My name is Bridget Grammy. I'm the director of our Center for Public Interest Law at the University of San Diego School of Law. And we too at University of San Diego are a Changemaker campus. I don't know how long, but I want to say maybe 2012, something like that. And at my center, we focus on, we're really a research and academic center. We focus mostly on policy change and systemic change through policy, and focusing mostly on California. I'll pass it to Anne.
And I'm on mute. I'm Anna. I'm with Ashoka. I work in the support for coordinator for entrepreneurs as part of the integrity team with Annette. I'm here on a year-long fellowship, so I will be attending law school in the fall. So I'm really excited to join this conversation as both someone working in public interest, nonprofit, change making, and as a law student.
Who do you want to hand it off to?
Oh, Annette.
Tag team. Hi, everyone. I'm Annette McGee Johnson. I'm Global Legal Director at Ashoka. I work on supporting the organization across all of the legal entities on contracts, risk mitigation, and corporate governance. And I'm really excited that we're, especially with Anna's support and with the next WOW Legal Innovator coming in, that we're able to focus a bit more on our external engagement. So as part of our external engagement, we support Ashoka Fellows in connecting them to pro bono support. We also work with pro bono partners on some of our external needs. And now we are branching into connecting with law students through an internship program. And we see that as an opportunity to connect law students to this broader conversation, including this one, in terms of legal change making. And to Dan's point, it's really great to, as we talk about these issues, have people who are actually closer to law school to speak to your current experience. But we're definitely looking for how we can make your experience more enriching, and that we contribute to this community, this growing community of changemaker lawyers. And Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Dangle. I'm at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. I've had sort of an interesting career in the sense that I started out very much in traditional law and then took a complete almost 180 and got into social impact entertainment, making documentary films, helping young people go from consumers of media to producers of media so they could tell their own stories. I came to Pitt to sort of train the next generation of lawyers, social entrepreneurs, because unbeknownst to me, that's what I had become. And I've been working with this group for a number of years now to try to expand our reach in some of the programs that we've developed to train law students to be lawyers and social entrepreneurs.
And let's go ahead and actually, since we're a small group, I'd love to hear from all of you. Let's do quick introductions, 30 seconds. We'll do the same thing. I'm going to hand it off to one of you first, and then you'll pass it off to somebody else. I'm going to go with Isabel. We cannot hear you, however. I don't know what, you're off mute, but we're not able to. All right, well, let's go to Hannah. We'll go to Hannah while you, well, we'll put you towards the end.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Hannah Edmonds. I'm currently a 1L at New York Law School, and I'm actually in the same section as Isabel, which is really cool. So I'm excited to participate in this today and to be a part of Ashoka this summer as an intern for data privacy and compliance.
Who would you like to pass it off to?
Anuradha, am I saying that right?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
So I'm Anu, I'm a 2L at UC Hastings, and I'll be working with Annette at Ashoka this summer, so I'm really excited for that.
And now we can go back to Isabel, see if it works yet. Fingers crossed. No, unfortunately, we can't hear you. Well, does anybody know, Isabel? They're going to do, actually, Hannah can, right? Go for it.
I know Isabel. So she's also a 1L at New York Law School, and I know she's really excited about working with Ashoka this summer on the integrity team as well. We've both been talking about how excited we are, and it's really cool that we're both on it together. So.
Thank you for covering, Hannah, in this digital breakdown. I'm quite convinced that our computers are tired of this too, as we all are after a year. All right, let's keep on going. We're going to turn things over to Stephanie, who's going to spend a few minutes telling us a little bit about change making in traditional education and what it could be.
Sure. So this is a funny little slide that I put together, I think, to recognize how inadequate traditional legal education is. And I hope for the law students on the call, this isn't what you're seeing, but for far too long, this is what legal education has been like. You know, it focuses on eliminating risks and so looks backwards to precedent without a recognition that risk in today's world is unavoidable. It focuses on litigation and adversarial relationships as opposed to teaching you to work with lawyers and non-lawyers. It doesn't give you the business skills that you need to represent your clients or to build your own legal practice or whatever career you choose. It's fearful of the latest technology. Everybody's convinced that robot lawyers are going to take our jobs, and they're afraid to even go near technology, at least traditional law school faculty are. And it has this sort of, when a client comes to you, it's like, no, you can't do that. Or yes, you can do that, but you have to do it this way. And in many ways, traditional legal education does not produce change makers, it produces change breakers. Everything is sort of focused on stopping the forward progress of what law really is. So the group of us that are on the call today have been working on trying to develop a different kind of legal education. Dan, if you want to go to the next slide. So what legal education should be, and to some degree we've been able to do with our own programs, is to focus on working with diverse interdisciplinary teams where the lawyer is not the leader, but is a team member, and to try to focus on a broader social goal beyond just working in courtroom settings, but to work with a variety of experts or participants in the field. And that's one of the things Dan does at Northeastern's new law lab, is to work at the sort of intersection of art and design to create new strategies of legal empowerment. Again, it needs not to focus so much on adversarial situations, but to teach lawyers to mediate disputes and to understand that litigation is not always the best remedy for every legal problem. It's a recognition that lawyers need to manage risk, not try to eliminate it, because in today's world, it's impossible, as we've seen in the past year, to completely eliminate risk. It teaches law students business skills, so not just for their clients, but also so that they can build their own careers. And it also sort of focuses on addressing the access to justice gap, as Bridget has done with her Center for Public Interest Law, to sort of work with not just lawyers and protecting the licensing process, but expanding beyond the legal profession to address the access to justice gap, because it's not just lawyers who need to be part of that. So overall, this law and social innovation education we've been trying to build is sort of a yes, we can do that kind of education, and here's how. And I think it's really well exemplified by many Ashoka fellows. And it's even was sort of the original vision that Bill Drayton brought to Ashoka, because he himself is a lawyer and social innovator. And so as part of this exercise, we've been working on a syllabus, which we'll be talking more about today and getting your input on. So Dan.
Bridget, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Yes, it's great to be with all of you. So what I'm going to talk about is what we've been working on kind of as a group. As Stephanie mentioned, Ashoka at the Exchange, for the past several years, they've had a law track. And so these conversations have been going on for a little while, kind of in a more informal way. How do we change law school? I know for myself, when I attended my first exchange, as a policy person, I was so intrigued by the whole design thinking concept. And I was looking at it differently. I was looking at it from a policy perspective as opposed to like a business perspective, but the principles are still the same, And so, we've talked about that. We had our own dedicated tracks. And then 2 years ago? I keep getting the timing mixed up. I think it was 2019. We had the exchange was in San Diego. And so we were able to host at the University of San Diego School of Law a whole day before the exchange even started, where we just got together and talked about this issue a little bit more. How do we make law school more meaningful? To me, that as a teacher in law school, I feel my students are often just longing for something. And even after, you know, being in practice, I feel like people are just longing for some more meaning in the practice of law. And so that's really what we were focusing on for that particular day. And one of the exercises we did there was similar to what we're going to do here today, is we just Dan led us in a whole design thinking experiment, really, thinking about what would a syllabus look like and going through that process. We put that together, and then we presented that same syllabus that we kind of started out in San Diego at NYU, the Grennan Center. They had a whole, I guess, a couple of days focused on impact investing. And so we were able to kind of test the syllabus a little bit more with the participants conference and refine it a little bit more. And now we're here to do that same thing from the student perspective and from other people's perspectives to hear, you know, what are we missing here? How can we keep developing this? And our ultimate goal is to be able to provide some kind of model for other law schools and places to develop this curriculum, incorporate this change-making concept more into what we're doing. One story I would share very quickly is that one example of an outcome of this after the San Diego conference, one of the participants, Stacy Butler, who teaches at University of Arizona, she has a really unique class called Innovate for Justice. She ended up teaming up with myself and another one of my colleagues, and then also we teamed up with Duke Law School and Harvard Law School, and we had a class on human trafficking that was it was interdisciplinary. We had students from, sorry, I have my baby with me. She's hiding, but she's here. But we had nursing students. We had students from getting their nonprofit management degree from USD. And then also at Arizona, they had a different, you know, a diverse array of students that were participating in that class. And we came up with some really awesome ideas. It was all design thinking based and policy and other ways, you know, kind of thinking about how to tackle the human trafficking problem. So I would love to see more examples of that going forward.
Super, thank you. Anna.
Yeah, so as they've been saying, they started developing the syllabus over time for a class to address these sort of identified shortcomings and push the boundaries in terms of what we see the legal education becoming, you know, to foster these change-making thinkers and these frameworks. So we have the course is divided up into these 5 modules or chapters, where each module would take part over a number of classes, delving into different subjects such as, you know, changemaking skills, delving into excellence in humanity, community engagement strategies, and each session subject would teach different skills, changemaking skills to the students. And so the syllabus, you know, breaks down traditional lawyering, then teaching changemaking, how to employ those skills as tools for creating change, structuring the business operations and skills required for implementing you know, this vision, and then finally the financial components to make these projects viable and sustainable in the long term. So in other words, you know, starting by breaking down and reframing more broadly, and then building up to the specific, delving into the conceptual and personal skills, as well as the different strategies and operational components. And throughout the course, there will be an emphasis on experiential learning, not just sort of intellectual learning, you know, bringing in different books, guest speakers, externships, incubators, networking opportunities to make it a truly like holistic course for students.
And of course, all the work in the world at the law schools will mean nothing if there aren't opportunities, a pipeline of opportunities for new lawyers to be engaged in this work. And so I want to turn things over to Annette, who's going to talk a little bit about what's going on at Ashoka.
That is a really nice segue, because we are thinking about the internship program as an opportunity to show law students what's possible. With a lot of, you know, at least when I was in law school, a lot of the on-campus interviews focus on a specific kind of law practice and opportunities for students. But because of the innovative work that our Ashoka Fellows are doing, we are happy for this opportunity to expose law students to the different ways that they can use their law degree and help to accelerate change in the legal sector. And so through the internship program, which we've been pretty successful with, as this is the first year, but we had over 150 applicants, and we anticipate having about 10 students in total at a few organizations, as well as with a few of them being placed at Ashoka. And then during our time, we will have involvement with pro bono partners and partners in the legal community so that we can come together for some conversation with the law students, and also opportunity for them to share their experience with their respective organizations through their summer internship program. And then we also want to have a conversation, and I'm pretty sure some of us in this group right now will stay in conversation, including about the curriculum, but also looking at how we stay connected once the internship program is over, so that you law students continue to be part of the conversation, and we bring more law students on board to participate as well. And I don't know if you have anything to add, Anna.
I think that's a really great overview with the program. I think it's just, yeah, giving students the opportunity to see what the different options are, exposing them not just to one organization, but to a number of different organizations in the fellow network at Ashoka, to create a really broad experience where people can see the different ways that individuals are approaching change making.
Wonderful, thank you. And it is not a secret to say that this project really has started to gain some momentum and some steam when Annette and Anna joined us in the last few months as we started to put together this particular presentation. So I see my fellow collaborators nodding, yes, please. All right, it's workshop time. This is where we actually get to do something a little bit fun. So we are not going to do 5 breakout rooms. We're going to actually stay all together in this room. I'm going to be taking notes in the PowerPoint slide deck as we go through each of the prompts. There's going to be 3 rounds. The first 2 rounds are about 10 minutes each. I might cut it a little bit less than that if we actually do the work and get it done. And then 1 critique of the actual syllabus itself. We're going to go back to that shot that, or the slide that Anna was talking about with all the different modules. We'll be able to choose which module to go to. I'm going to share with you in a link the actual syllabus. We'll be able to look at it and critique it and have a good conversation. So before we get started, so this is now these first 2 are brainstorming, right? So that means you have to release a little bit of creative energy out into the world. If you have something on your desk that's like a desktop toy or something like that, grab it. I have magnet tiles. Any of you who have children are familiar with these things. These are absolutely wonderful. But if you have something on your desk, any kind of desktop toy, feel free to pick that up and use it as we are brainstorming. I find that actually tactile play can be a tremendous benefit to get your mind sort of thinking in new directions. If you don't have anything like that, even just a piece of paper, a 3x5 card or something to play with, fold, make little airplanes, what have you. All right, here's the first prompt. No, I'm not kidding, Stephanie, it's true. Here's the first prompt. Number 1, speculative future setting. We have 10 minutes to talk about the following. It is the year 2051. Describe the world and its top 3 social challenges. We have chosen 2051, which is 30 years out, for a reason. Actually, 2 reasons. The first reason is we want it far enough out into the future that we really are freed to envision a world that does not yet exist. We're not looking to make minor tweaks to say that, it's the year 2025, because that's so close. It's easy for us to just say, well, President Harris has made the following decisions. Well, we're instead looking at 2051. Who knows what the world is going to be like in 2051? We know that the laws of physics, or we expect they will still apply, but beyond that, it's ours to sort of build. So with that, and the second reason is this project, this pedagogical project of building a law school syllabus is a long-term project. If the internship program at Ashoka got over 100 applications, 120, I think it was, that indicates that there is a huge demand in our US law schools for this type of education. And so we want to meet that, but that's also going to take a lot of time. And we want to be cognizant of the fact that big change happens slowly in the law. So with that, let's start thinking. Who wants to start by, and you're gonna be seeing my screen a lot, so I'll try to be not too disruptive as I take notes. Who wants to start by giving us some indication of what kind of future world that might be? Hannah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. So I think something that the world will be working on is figuring out the market in relation to jobs related to climate change and new energy. Because at that point, hopefully we will have converted a lot of large energy sources to more green energy. So I think that there will be a lot of job development from that and kind of figuring out the different roles needed and how those work together.
All right, and as you see me making these notes, if I'm doing it wrong, just correct me. Anna.
I had also written a note about environmental and climate change, but mine was more from the perspective, a strain on resources, as well as migration resulting from climate change. You hear about climate refugees and the increasing number of those. So the different social conversations and political conversations that are going to be coming from those issues as well.
Wonderful.
I don't know how to raise my hand.
That's okay. You can go for it, and then we'll go with Isabel.
But yeah, I thought about 3 different issues, and definitely environmental. So that's a co-sign there. And then I think there are going to be a lot of rights-based issues in terms of access to resources.
Awesome. Go for it, Isabel.
Okay, I hope you guys can hear me.
You can now.
Yes.
Hooray. You
Okay,
have a lovely voice.
Thank you for your patience. So I have 2, definitely one is environmental. I was going to say something a little bit more specific on plastic, just the amount of what I've read on how much plastic there will be in the oceans by 2050, that there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. And so I definitely think that will be a big social problem we'll be facing by that point. But also something a little bit more broad. We just went through a pandemic, and the likelihood of another pandemic happening in the next 30 years. I mean, with the amount of people, the population, what will it be like by 2051? Will probably make the likelihood of another disease occurring very high. So I think that's definitely something that we'll be facing during that time period.
We will definitely face another. Michelle.
So this is for 2051 challenges, correct? Social.
You got it. Yeah.
I just want to make sure I have
We're building a future world, 2051, future world.
Okay, the 2 things I was thinking about is actually the place of workforce assessment around tech, because not everyone has that accessibility. So I think it's going to be a very tech focused workforce, but not most people won't fit into that. So I think, so I guess actually unemployment rate is going to be a very different look by then. And then the other one I was thinking about was, oh shoot, I lost it. It was one around the climate. It was around climate, but I think it was very, very much more specific to like desolate cities, essentially. Like I think people are going to flee cities, and it's going to leave a lot of waste and infrastructure not being used. There was more to that, and I lost it, but that's what I got.
You can always bring it back whenever it returns. Hannah.
I think something else we're going to be struggling with, but also still developing, because I think we're already doing that now, is dealing with the amount of information traversing networks. Information's value surpassed the value of oil a few years ago. And I think that's going to continue to go that way, especially as we become more of an online society, which we've seen as a firsthand example during this pandemic. While many folks were fortunately able to transition to online, another issue we're going to run into is leaving behind societies that don't have the online abilities that others do. So I think a struggle with the more online we are is leaving behind different communities that don't have the same access.
Digital divide is going to grow and grow and become more and more problematic. Bridget.
Yeah, actually, just along those lines, with both Michelle and Hannah's comments, I'm thinking about the delivery of professional services, both like medical and legal and all kinds, through tech, and what kinds of access issues that brings up, but also what kinds of like accountability that may also raise. And as far as like, is it, you know, are people being protected still, and all those types of issues.
Accountability. Every now and then I go into full caps. I apologize if that triggers anybody. I don't intend it to. It does me sometimes, but other thoughts. We actually are doing pretty good. We filled a slide and we only have 4 minutes left, which is not bad. Michelle, did you have
I was going to say privacy.
Yes.
What? Yeah, I forgot about that. Like it told you what Bridget said, just told me, I was like, oh yeah, privacy is going to be massively, it's either just going to exist or not at that point. And I think either, you know, I think there's something really interesting from like the West Wing about it, where they were like, there's no laws really around privacy when it comes to the internet, but we're starting to base a lot of that, like a lot of ownership through blockchain, or like a lot of like unbanked situations. So I think privacy is going to be one of the greater challenges with our laws not keeping up with it.
Excellent. Anna.
I guess one thing that I've been thinking about as well, and who knows what this will look like as technology continues to develop, but just in terms of an aging population and, you know, the workforce demand is something also I'm curious what that will look like in 50 years or so.
Awesome. Excellent. All right, I think we've done quite a good job so far in our future world setting. One of the things I do here at the lab is as I teach law students how to use design methods, we use the world of speculative design, which is a fascinating area. If any of you ever want to get involved in it, Speculative Everything by Anthony Dunn and Fiona Raby is an excellent way for you to get into this mindset. Let's just review what we got. We have a market in relation to jobs for climate change is changing. Green energy will be dominant. New roles are coming. A strain on resources and increasing migration as a result of climate change. A lot of rights-based issues in terms of access to resources. Plastic, oh my God, thank you for that data point. That is terrifying. There will be more plastic than fish in the ocean by 2050. The likelihood of another pandemic looms large. We will see another, not one, possibly two between now and 2151. That's my editorializing. Tech-focused workforce, but most people will not fit into that category. People will flee cities, leaving a lot of waste, the amount of information coursing through networks, the value of such content. We will leave behind societies that do not have access to online and digital resources. The data that is coming out right now about pandemic, the impact of the pandemic on different socioeconomic classes of individuals in the United States is absolutely chilling and remarkable to see how that is playing out. The delivery of professional services will be different due to tech and accountability. Let's talk about accountability with respect to that. Privacy may no longer exist. I might have gone a little bit further than the way it was proposed, but that's my job. Blockchain, I still haven't figured that one out. But laws will not keep up if the law professors can't keep up. And we've got an aging population and significantly different workforce challenges. That is our future world, okay? So now we are going to go to the breakout number 2 in our little mini breakout room, which is just one room. And here's the prompt for that. Keeping that in mind, keeping that future world in mind. We're going to have 5 different future worlds articulated in the breakout. After the breakout, we don't have that, obviously. So with that future world in mind, let's now name I say 3 change-making responses. We can do more than that, obviously. So we've got now 10 minutes to talk about what are the change-making responses that will be in place, that could be in place in 2051 to respond to this new future world. Who wants to kick us off? Hannah, wonderful.
So I think, is it Elon Musk right now has developed technology that he's piloting for creating more access to internet for folks in communities that don't have the typical connection ability. So I think more projects like that, where we are able to give communities that could get left behind as technology continues to evolve and we as humanity continue to become more online, those communities won't get left behind if we offer things like, yes, that's it, Starlink. And I assume there will be competitors that will start coming out of that. But with that access, it needs to be very cheap or free, preferably, because those communities likely won't have the economic resources to sustain a monthly bill like what other communities are paying.
Think big, free access. Isabel.
Regarding the trying to prevent another pandemic from happening, to try and not let the growth in population speed as quickly as it's growing. So provide more access for birth control, education to young girls, etc. Would definitely be something we would need to focus on. And then regarding the use of plastic, to be more self-reliant in the way we live, to not rely so much on single-use plastics, to educate and encourage others to enjoy being more reliant in the way that they live. Example, using more jars, more fresh produce instead of ordering takeout would be solutions I would promote.
Fabulous. Hannah, do you have another one?
Nope, I just forgot to put my hand down.
That's quite all right. Michelle's got something.
Yeah, I just wanted to, is this for a direct response to our first prompt?
It is, in fact, yes, a direct response to the world that we imagined.
Then I forgot a big challenge.
Go for it.
Sorry, wait, yeah.
Okay.
No, I like in, yeah, oops, yeah, okay.
Do you want me to go back to this slide?
No, you're okay. I just realized I forgot something off the challenges one, but I forgot that it was the finance thing. I think there's gonna be a huge financial access situation, but I think the Changemaker solution is gonna be like microfinancing or like community. Like that's what I was thinking of, because I totally forgot on the last one. I was like, that was the one that slipped away.
We can add microfinance. Absolutely. What would be so Michelle, help me articulate what a microfinance response to workforce changes would be.
I would actually say it would have, like, in some ways, because there's going to be, I think, this continued, like, I think, advancement from a tech space and those changes, I think the rise actually will go back to very, like, standard work that we know today. Thus, I think the microfinancing is going to be more banks in places that did not exist and be very much more centered around community versus servicing like we're a massive bank and we're here to like kind of take over. I think that's really going to be the core of sustaining like actual communities around the world and stuff.
Awesome. Excellent. Other ideas? Sorry. I saw Anna's hands up first and then Stephanie.
Okay. There's got to be, since so many of these problems cross national boundaries, there needs to be a more effective international legal organization, sort of a UN with teeth, where there really is collaboration on a more even playing field. And whether that's, international courts or deliberative bodies, I really feel like that's going to be part of the solution if we're going to tackle any of these massive challenges in the future.
Anna.
Just to work off of Stephanie, I completely agree, especially as mobilization and globalization continues to increase and we become more connected. People are moving again, as we see more climate refugees and then also information being shared. Having an international organization, as you said, with teeth is going to be incredibly important. But also, in terms of both an aging population, future pandemics, having a greater social safety net, not only in terms of, healthcare, but also, as you now see, discussions about minimum wage coming up is something also that will need to be addressed. And in terms of, environmental issues and social woes, especially for groups or individuals that are affected, having some sort of mechanism where there's greater ability for them to, I guess, hold individuals accountable when they are harmed in different ways.
A global private right of action to sue governments. Now there's a concept. Anna, when you start law school next year, I want you to raise that on the first day of property or torts law. Global private right of action. All right. Why not? I'm not trying to get you in trouble. If you have a good faculty member up there, they'll be like, yeah, let's talk about that, how we would actually make that happen. I'm going to actually put that in there. All right. Other responses, I can always add another slide if necessary, although I think we're sort of coming to our natural conclusion. Let's review, shall we? All right. So these are future. Let's go back first to our world real quickly. Market in relation to jobs for climate change, strains on resources, environmental degradation, more plastic than fish, the likelihood of another pandemic, a tech-focused workplace that leaves most people out, people fleeing cities, no more privacy, laws are not keeping up, an aging population and workforce changes. All right, so then here's our change-making responses. One, internet access connections globally, for example, Starlink, which of course is, Elon Musk's private profit-making enterprise to provide global internet access. So thinking about it instead from the perspective of democratizing access to the internet, free access global to the world so that no one is left out. Pandemic prevention, slow the growth in population, provide more free access to birth control to young girls, possibly education as well, I think. 3, abandon single-use plastics. People use more glass jars and go for fresh produce. 4, microfinance response to workforce changes, more banks in communities that have not had prior access to loans and financing structures. The rise of an international legal organization that creates a more even playing field. Could be the United Nations, could be something else. I'm currently watching the sci-fi, I think it's Amazon sci-fi show, The Expanse. And the United Nations governs the entire Earth and Moon.
I love that show.
I love it too. We're in season 5 right now. Woo.
Yeah.
So have a greater social safety net that is global, and a mechanism for accountability, a global private right of action. Why not? All right. So that's the world where we're at, or that's what we've constructed. Now it's time to look at the syllabus and have some conversations about what works and what doesn't work about the syllabus. I'm going to pull up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop to move a couple things around on my desktop here to do this. I'm going to drop a link into the chat so that you can all take a look at the actual syllabus itself. And it is in the chat. Sorry, you're all watching me do all my moving around here. Okay, there is the there's the chat. That is the actual syllabus that we've been working on. So feel free to go ahead and take a look at it. I'm gonna actually pull it up myself so we can look at it on the screen as well. But you're welcome to take a look at it in the link that I just sent around. And what we're looking for here, I'm going to take notes in this document as we go. We're going to start with one of the modules. We're going to take a look at the module, and we want to hear mostly from the law students and the soon-to-be law student about what the and soon-to-be law students about what the what's lacking, right? So which module do we want to start with? We've got reframing lawyering, change-making skills, the law as a change tool, the business of change making, and financing change making. Who wants to propose a first pass? What do we want to start with? Anu, it sounds like it looks like you're thinking about something. Which one do you want to go for? You're on mute right now, though. Oh, there we go.
Well, I would want to discuss the finding resources and the finance one, financing changemaking, where you're at, because that's never been brought up in law school and I'm halfway through, more than halfway through with law school at this point. And the role that money and law have with each other is only brought up in the form of how do you calculate damages at the end of a litigation,
right.
And nothing proactive about how do you preemptively figure out how to use financial resources to help people rather than just calculate damages.
Michelle notes in the chat, that's concerning. Yes, it is concerning that law schools are not teaching that. Stephanie actually teaches this, financing change. Stephanie, you want to talk a little bit about financing changemaking, and we can perhaps take a little time to gather some critique of what we've created?
Absolutely. I mean, if you're really interested in this field, another conference we participated in the past is the Grunin Conference on Impact Investing, which really focuses on, creative, socially motivated types of financing and lawyers' roles in impact investing. But more generally speaking, I think the focus in law school, it's not that you have to completely throw out what law school teaches you. It's a question of tweaking what exists in the form of persuasive writing, whether it be, writing grant applications or, making a pitch to a funder. But you're right that law school is really inadequate in sort of thinking through the financial impacts of what we do outside the litigation context. So we talked a little bit about microfinancing. That is definitely going to be a significant need in the future. Crowdfunding, how you take a financial solution such as economic opportunity zones, but make sure that the people experiencing the opportunity are not just the people with the money, but the people who need the money. And so much of law school really doesn't focus on the economic inequality that exists and how that impacts access to justice issues. So there is, we have this at the end of the syllabus, but in many ways, without the money to begin with, none of the rest of it is going to happen. So that has to be a huge part of thinking from, sort of day one, not just sort of blue sky, what do we want to do, but how are we actually going to fund what we want to do?
Might benefit from moving it up in the syllabus. You never know, right? So the way we have this module structured right now, well, yeah, there's arguments in lots of different ways, right? We've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 separate sections under financing changemaking. First one is about finding resources, ecosystems thinking, impact investing, resourcefulness, board engagement, corporate social responsibility, creativity, crowdsourcing, public-private blended capital, foundations, and government. And then getting the resources, the how. So it's first the who, then the how. Getting resources, synergy and syntropy, lobbying and policy, storytelling, community engagement, visionary, partnerships, building a network, grant writing, which I am in the middle of right now, my favorite thing to do, fundraising and community building. Then accounting for what you've got. Now this is crucial. As a recipient of grants, I can attest to this. Accountability, data reporting, story building. I cannot emphasize the importance of story building in grant reporting. Tax structures, restricted versus unrestricted funding, nuts and bolts of accounting. That will probably be the most fun class. I'm kidding. And risk management. And then the last one is rebuild, revise, recycle, the sustainability of finance. That also being a crucial component part of this. Sustainable systems thinking, investing, endowments, strategy, self-supporting possibility, marketing, derivative products and services. Now, what we just covered you could spend an entire 2 semesters, an entire year on all of this topic. So it's definitely a summary, but is there anything from the student perspective that stands out as missing, or from anyone's perspective? We don't have just students attending, but other folks as well. What do you think we're missing? Hannah.
So I'm actually going to skip to module 1, but I can wait a minute to see if anybody has any for this one.
Yeah, does anybody have any further thoughts on the financing part before we move to module 1?
I don't think we actually have microfinance as one of the sources of financing, which I think is really important.
I had more of a question about the end of the syllabus, the rebuild, revise, recycle. Is that in terms of like a circular economy type idea? That last
That's one
part.
way of looking at it. Yeah, that's one way of, yep. But we can also add that, the circular economy, because that's a whole concept, right?
Right. I just thought maybe that would just having that like topic name in there, I think would be important. That's my only add.
Circular economy, that does sound like a new term. I like it though. Awesome. Okay, thank you. All right, we've covered financing. We have 2 great ideas, circular economy and microfinance. We're going to go now up to module 1, and Hannah's going to give us some ideas here.
Yeah, so I was looking specifically at the class 3 followership, and I looked at self-care and vulnerability and transparency. So within those 2, I think there should be something on mental health, proactive mental health. So instead of being reactive in a sense of when students get to a point where they are already severely struggling, there are things in place to prevent that. I know that some law schools offer counseling in-house, but I think that it's more ancillary at this point, and I think that it's something that should be almost required in a way, whether it's group sessions, what have you, but definitely proactive mental health. And then as far as vulnerability and transparency, I don't know if this would be, I don't know what this would look like, but some sort of way for students to show what they're going through and find safety in doing that from seeing leaders like professors or even the deans that have gone through similar things. So to sort of eliminate the stigma around sharing these things.
Awesome. My Google document is slowing down a little bit here. That is crucial. So that the vulnerability, vicarious trauma is one area that a lot of this work is done in, but it's absolutely crucial. We've got a project right now in my lab where we're helping folks who are facing eviction. And there's a lot of folks that we've exhausted all of the benefit programs and everything that we can do, and they're still facing eviction. And what lawyers do with that, the fact that there is no more you can do, that's pretty heavy stuff, and it needs to be addressed. We'll start with Isabel and then go to Ada.
Yeah, I was gonna maybe add in the leadership section of Model 1, since we're there. Hannah and I both had a professor. I still can't get over that we're both in this together. It's really awesome that Hannah and I are but we had our criminal law professor just kept telling us how we needed to be more like self-reliant, like to not, even though we're here getting an education and this is the area to be asking questions and to gain all this knowledge, to also try and, if we weren't the type of lawyer that we would go to for help, like why should anyone else come to us for help? So that was just something that really stuck with me in that class, was basically like, if I'm not able to, answer this question myself as a lawyer, like why would anyone else be dependent on me? So I think that there could be kind of like a title in there of like, I don't know how I would phrase this in one word, but just to, I guess, to be more self-reliant. If there's a question or if there's something that we have that we think we could probably answer ourselves first, if we just did a little bit more research, would be something, a skill that I think is really important for law students to learn. So that would be what I would add.
Excellent idea. Anna and then Anu.
Yeah, so this kind of, I don't know where exactly it would fall in the syllabus. It kind of spans fellowship, leadership, but then goes into model 2 with maybe excellence in humanity and community engagement strategies, but this idea of positionality, especially when you're dealing with other communities, and what's kind of touted as like what is expertise, what is considered to be a viable solution, and understanding that especially as a lawyer, or if you're going into a minority community and you're part of a different group, just how your self-perception and how your different experiences influences your interaction with others, I think is extremely important as well. In terms of being a leader, but also following, it's more about lifting up other groups as opposed to prescribing solutions, especially if you think about this sort of colonial way of thinking that at least Western practice of law tends to be grounded in.
Excellent, excellent. Anu.
So this, I think, in part 1 under the like power and its mechanics, I think that might be where this goes. But one thing I've really like struggled with in law school is that like my perception of like bad things in the world before, I thought a lot of it was just like incompetence, or like no one was paying attention and things have spiraled out of control, and not like malevolence or like it being intentionally set up this way. And now in law school and like reading case law and like reading laws and seeing like there's a lot of like time and effort and money that goes in behind the scenes to keep things the way they are, and like keep a lot of people oppressed and keep the environment, like there's just a lot of active energy spent making things bad, and it's like scary and demoralizing as a law student of just like, wow, like on the other side of it, people have been trying to use the law to like mitigate the damage from that, like, but it's so like reactive in so many ways. Like, how can I as a future lawyer have an impact when there's like so much active energy fighting against that? And like I feel like establishing like the framework where that sits would be helpful, instead of just like reading laws and like piecing it together in my head from the like readings, but not have it like as a like the power mechanics as a framework discussed about in classes.
Fabulous, that's great. And just want to point out that Nadira has dropped into the chat a link to Namati. Fantastic organization doing great work in this space. And in fact, that organization was one of the models for my organization early on when we got started. Bridget.
These are really great points that you're raising. And on the point that you were just saying, Anu, I think what also strikes me about it, and I don't know if it would go in this module or maybe in a different one, but it helping to identify these power structures really has to do with you need to understand that before you can achieve systemic change, right? So you need to know who has the power and under what existing structure, so that you can think about how can you even start to make change there. And so I do think that's such a really important point that you just raised. And I think it kind of maybe just spans the different, think about the module about law as a tool for social change. That's also a really important aspect of it. And then the other thing, just because I know you have this resources column here, Dan, even though we were just kind of talking about what's missing, but I thought I'd just throw out there the part about self-awareness. So where was that? I think it was leadership, maybe.
Leadership, self-knowledge.
Self-knowledge. Yeah. I have found personally things like the Enneagram. I don't know if you guys know about the Enneagram, or, there's all kinds of different personality I don't want to say personality assessment tools, but, you know, like Strengths Finder, something like that. I think that has been so valuable to me as a lawyer and helping me understand what I'm able personally, like what is my most authentic self and my most authentic skills, and how I can use that and leverage that in my work. When I, as a brand new lawyer, was questioning myself all the time because I behaved differently than the white male partner in my firm. And I was always just like, oh, I need to be different. I need to work differently or think differently. And once I understood more, well, that's just because I'm a different person, actually. Important role to play in this too. I think if I would have had that knowledge in law school, and had that developed out a lot more, I can imagine myself being a more effective change maker. Even, you know, as we talk about being entrepreneurs, even if you're not in power, but having that leadership style and self confidence and awareness, I think could have really helped. So I would just add some kind of assessment tool like that early on.
I think that's a great idea. It took me years to come to a comfort level that I'm a really weird guy and I gesticulate wildly making public presentations. But that's a, but once I understood that was actually a strength, and I was able to lean into it, sometimes a little too much. Anu, you've had your hand up, and then we'll go to Hannah.
So I think this is under the core values part of it. But like the way that law school, like you go back and forth between reading something very, very boring and detailed, and then something super upsetting, and then something super boring and super upsetting. And like, I get why they do it, because by the end, you read the upsetting stuff with like the same amount of detachment that you read the boring stuff, and you read the boring stuff with the same amount of detail that you read the upsetting stuff. And like, I understand why they want to change our heads in that way, but it sometimes feels like difficult to keep the focus of like, I like want to be a lawyer because I want to help affect things that are upsetting, and like just the emotional roller coaster of like a really upsetting criminal law case and then a really detailed contract law case about like a very like just the way that they purposely go back and forth, and how you can hold on to your core values during that, I think would be a worthwhile discussion point.
That's awesome. Hannah.
So I think this would go in module 4 under business skills, possibly human development, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I was thinking about somebody you said earlier about making lawyers more of a partner rather than a stop point or some authoritarian personality. I think that's important to change the narrative at the education level for the law students themselves, to learn to be a partner, to work with communities, and to be in those communities to more effectively create change. Because I think we sort of still have this archaic view of the law and lawyers themselves as these authoritarian figures. And I just think that we need to change the educational piece to start changing that view of lawyers from society as well, because I think that will foster positive change making in local communities and globally as well.
And I assure you, for the nuance that I'm not capturing in these notes, we have this recording to turn to, so we will be making use of that. We are running short on time, so Anu, we'll have a couple more thoughts before we'll have to wrap up. But Anu, what do you like to add?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand.
Oh, you did. No, they should actually have some kind of like a timer or something, I would think. Annette.
The points from Anu and Bridget are really good, and it makes me wonder, as we work on this project, I think it's great that we are looking at law schools and even potentially undergrad, but I think it might be even interesting to look at the regulating bodies because, for example, like the type finders test, it actually would be really helpful to take a test like that before entering law school. And maybe some people wouldn't even end up in law school if they did that. So I think there could be some guidance provided just in the course of people looking at the LSAT, for example, that it's not a heavy lift, but people are provided with some information that they can do some preliminary assessments and help set people up in terms of what their expectations should be coming in. And then if we did have success with sharing the curriculum, right, like there could even be some readings and things like that that we can share with people to set them on the path for success.
Awesome. That is an outstanding segue to the close of our session. Because we are running out of time. It's only about 5 minutes left. So thank you very much. This has been a very helpful conversation for those of us who've been building this particular syllabus. I'm hoping that we will be able to remain in touch with all y'all and continue to engage you in it because we are building this for your generation of lawyers and law students. It is your feedback, those of you who are students, recent students, soon to be students, or current students, your feedback and your input on this is really the most essential. One of the things that we do here on the, in the innovation labs, and any of the folks who are from any of the law schools are engaging in this, is the notion of co-design. This idea, collaborative design, where you work with the intended end user of the product or service to design the product or service itself, is the process by which we have been creating this model syllabus. Because Annette will recall back in San Diego, when we first had that first brainstorming session, we literally had blank pieces of paper on the wall and that was it. Now we have something that actually has a little meat on the bones. And by doing sessions like this with all of you, we're able to continue to put more and more meat on the bones. So I thank you all for attending. I open it up we have a couple minutes left. If anybody has any last thoughts that they want to share or add, and then I'll just close with sort of a quick summary of what we expect next steps are going to be.
I just want to thank the students really quick for, really thoughtful comments. It's so helpful to hear and be reminded of the law school experience. Anu, your comments about like the flow of the way things work. Sometimes as teachers, you don't think about that. So I think about my own class even now and thinking about like how I need to add like a now what, like if you're going through like reading something emotional or upsetting, maybe there should be a now what section of the discussion for the students so you can kind of finish that processing system before you're just moving on. I think that's fascinating, really great.
Indeed, we could not build this without you, and your feedback is crucial. It's so true. We become so focused on our roles. I think Michelle's note in the comments may be the best way to close. She writes that this session makes me feel better about the future of the world. I hope all the students are considering a less traditional route. I suspect that is probably the case. You wouldn't be here otherwise. I'm certainly going to be into the circular economies, that's for sure, because I need to read up on that a little bit. We are out of time. We are going to continue to work on this. We're going to continue to build it out. Those of us who are at law schools will continue to prototype aspects of this syllabus. So for example, right now I'm in the process of standing up a trauma-informed housing and security law clinic here at the Northeastern Law School. I'm using a lot of the thinking that's coming from the syllabus in order to do so. Each of us have those projects. And of course, Annette and Anna are running the show at Ashoka. They are standing up this fabulous legal internship program, which is just, my heart sings when I think about that. If that had been available to me when I was a law student back in my own age, it would have been, I don't know where my career would have gone, who knows. But thank you all. We have our contact information here. I should have actually put that up while I was blathering on, but failed to do so. Do not hesitate to reach out to us. Like I said, we'll probably be in touch with you because for anybody who attends one of these sessions, we try to do our best to stay engaged. And thank you very much, Michelle, for all of your help standing up this conference, standing up this session in particular. Technical assistance at the front end and throughout is greatly appreciated. And thank you all very much for attending. you.